Who is the Cailleach? Giantess, goddess, world builder, embodiment of winter and spring? Perhaps all that and something else entirely. In this video, we'll take a look at all these questions. We might even answer a few if we work together. The name Cailleach is usually translated as Old Woman or Hag, but is sometimes thought to mean Veiled One. The earliest written record of the Cailleach dates to the 9th century CE from the Yellow Book of Lecan, but there is linguistic evidence that the folk tradition in Ireland and Scotland is a lot older. In this folklore, the Cailleach is a giant who uses a magic hammer to shape stone. Rocks spilled from her apron form the mountains Ben Cruachan and the Isle of Mull in Scotland, and the mountains of Mourne in Northern Ireland. In some traditions, she created large parts of Ireland and nearly all of Scotland. She is strongly associated with the Veire Peninsula in Ireland and is thought to have created it. So much so that she is sometimes simply referred to as Cailleach Veire or simply Veire. Her transformation from wild giantess to equally wild goddess probably came from her association with winter and the death of the year. The Cailleach is the queen of winter. During the cold months, her power reigns supreme. It is she who freezes the buds and blossoms and strips the leaves from the trees. Only the holly and the evergreens can resist her power. In his book Wonder Tales from Scottish Myth and Legends, 1917, Donald A. Mackenzie tells the story of the great battle between the forces of winter and spring, which occurs every year. In this legend, the Cailleach, jealous of her beauty and the effect she has on the world, has imprisoned the lovely Princess Briege in her castle of stone near Ben Nevis in Scotland and treats the fair princess as her slave. Yet the Cailleach's son, Angus, who lives in the Green Isle to the west, where it is always summer, has seen the princess in a dream and fallen in love with her. Angus mounts his white horse and travels to Scotland to free his love from his mother's cruel servitude. The Cailleach, sensing the threat to her power, uses all her skills to drive him away, causing great storms of ice and fierce winds to thwart him. Yet, eventually, with his magic and the power of love, Angus will break through and free the Princess Briege, who is, you might have guessed, the embodiment of spring and summer. Now there is a new queen, and spring's power grows as the Cailleach wanes and the flowers and sweetgrass grow once more, until the Cailleach's time comes again. Then spring is imprisoned in the cold stone castle as before, ice and snow rule the world, and the fight, which never really ended, begins anew. Well, that's one version of the story. In another, the relationship between the Cailleach, the embodiment of fall and winter, and Briege, the goddess of spring and summer, is at once far simpler and far more complicated. In this tradition, the Cailleach and Briege are one and the same. According to Mackenzie, here is a snippet of a song that the Cailleach would sing to herself when winter gripped the land.
I'm the old Veire again. My mantle no longer is green. I think of my beauty with pain, and the days when another was queen.
This also speaks to the way the Cailleach is always old yet never ages. When spring is approaching, as in the previous version of the legend, the Cailleach will fight with all her power to stop it from happening, with sudden frosts and cold winds to keep spring at bay. What she cannot prevent is the change in herself. One day she will notice a strand of fair hair among her iron-gray locks. The next day there will be more. The creases in her face will begin to ease, the wrinkles in her skin begin to smooth. One day she will go to sleep, and when she awakens, she will be the Cailleach no longer, but the young and beautiful Queen of Spring and Summer, Briege. So the season turns, yet within the young and fair Briege the Cailleach only slumbers, waiting for her time to come again. The day will dawn when Briege sees gray in her fair hair, and the wrinkles in her face and limbs begin to show, and soon the Cailleach will be reborn, forever old yet never aging. Again, there is yet another explanation of the Cailleach's immortality. In this one, there exists a well of youth in the Green Isle mentioned before, a floating island that sometimes appears off the west coast of Ireland or sometimes near the Hebrides. On the night of the last day of her reign as the Queen of Winter, the Cailleach seeks out this well, and she always knows where to find it despite its mobility. There she drinks and later sleeps, and when she awakens, she is no longer the Cailleach, but Briege, the Queen of Summer. As in the previous version of the legend, her lover Angus is apparently not required. Since Angus by tradition is the Cailleach's own son, that's really for the best. I mentioned earlier the Cailleach's role in shaping the landscape, which is one thing, other than being the Queen of Winter, she's especially noted for. As also pointed out in the matter of her creating mountains by accident, she didn't always make these changes on purpose. The legend goes that there was once a well on Ben Cruachan where the Cailleach drew water every day. She would move the huge stone which sealed the well in the morning and put it back in place that evening. One day she forgot to put the stone lid back on the well, and when she returned the next morning she found that the well had overflowed in the night and created a massive body of water in the valley below. Today that valley is known as Loch Awe, the longest freshwater lake in Scotland. Another legend says that a young maid in the Cailleach's service also forgot to seal a well near Inverness, which in turn overflowed, making the girl flee in a panic. In her anger, the Cailleach cursed the maiden, saying that she would run forever and never escape water. And so she was turned into a river. The maid's name was Nessa, and supposedly both Loch Ness and the River Ness were named for her. She is said to assume her human form once a year and come to the river's edge to sing a sad song, a song sweeter than those sung by any angel or fairy. Perhaps she does to this day. Yet despite the Cailleach's generally bad disposition, and again according to Mackenzie, animals love her. Foxes bark and wolves howl when they see her, and even the eagles were reputed to shriek with delight. This could be because there are a large number of animals under the Cailleach's protection. This includes deer, shaggy gray goats, cattle with high horns, black swine, and sheep with white fleeces. She is especially known for charming deer against huntsmen. Though with the proper offering, she probably wouldn't hold it against them for culling a hart or two. As with the deer and other animals, the Cailleach could be persuaded to come to the aid of humans as well, under the right circumstances. In some parts of Scotland, especially the island of Islay and the Hebrides, the Cailleach was considered a goddess of the harvest. The last sheaf cut, called the Old Wife, in reference to the Cailleach, would be carefully kept, and come spring the sheaf would be divided among the plough hands. They would in turn divide the sheaf still further and feed it to the plough horses. This was to ensure that the Cailleach's favor would be returned to the fields for the future harvests. On the Vera Peninsula of Ireland, there was also a tradition of the Cailleach as a goddess of the harvest. In keeping with her capricious nature, she was also known to challenge the farmhands to reaping contests that they could not win. At least the penalties for losing were more along the lines of humiliation than actual danger. As a shapeshifter, she was known to race ahead of the reapers in the form of a wild hare, so the cutting of the last sheaf, as was also done in Islay, was instead referred to as driving out the hare. The last sheaf cut, instead of Old Wife, was directly referred to as the Cailleach. She was also credited with teaching the people how to plant an early crop of grain that could be harvested before the next winter. The spirit of fall, winter, spring, and summer, world builder, protector of animals, and goddess of the harvest. So, who is the Cailleach? Might be a better question to ask, who isn't the Cailleach?